Hello, I want to welcome everyone to the Base God Live, also known as the Bass God Live. This program reflects the views of the individuals participating in the discussion and are for entertainment purposes only. They do not reflect the views of Bad Bob Productions, its affiliates, or partners, and should not be considered official endorsements or legal advice of any kind. This channel is not recommended for children under the age of 13. Parental discretion is advised. Well, hello everyone. I am Base God 14, your host, and today I am going to be reviewing the new film, the Munsters film. I guess I'll call it the Munsters 2022. And I am also going to be reviewing an independent comic book called Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. Now, Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter, I did feature that on my channel previously. I actually, by the way, I'm experimenting with the virtual background. It seems to be kind of a little psychedelic right now. It's kind of flashing a little bit. I'm guessing that's because I am not using a green screen. So it might be a little bit too distracting. So I'm probably going to just switch back and forth a little bit between using my camera and not using the camera. But I have featured Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter on this channel before. What I actually did was an unboxing of the actual physical book. I actually ordered it and I did an actual unboxing of it. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that link for the YouTube. And I'm going to put that into the comments. So that will be in the live comments. What I'll probably do after the broadcast is probably put a link in the description, especially for the YouTube. But I'm going to go ahead and put the unboxing for Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. I'm putting the link for the YouTube version of that on here on the show. But I'm actually going to go ahead and start out with the Munsters 2022, as I'm going to call it. This has been marketed as a reboot of the franchise. I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, I'm going to start spoiler free, and then I'm going to go into sort of a deep dive of my feelings on the Munsters 2022. So without getting into spoilers, I was incredibly disappointed in this film, incredibly disappointed in the Munsters 2022. I want to kind of show something right off the bat, okay? I am not a Rob Zombie hater. I own this. This is the Rob Zombie Past, Present, and Future CD. It's kind of a deluxe CD in that it's got all these different little flaps. It's got a little like collectible what do you call it? Pamphlet. Over here, this is a collectible pamphlet that you can see it like it. Maybe I should just turn off this virtual background. You can see here that it's like a book, right? And it's a collectible book. It has a bunch of music on it, and it has a bunch of videos on it as well. It has a bunch of videos as well. Yeah, this virtual background isn't working so well, is it? But hey, it's good to try out new things. But anyway, you can see on the back of it is Moon, right? Moon Zombie. Gosh, I'm terrible with names sometimes. I have to go ahead and refer to my notes here. Sherry Moon Zombie. That's Rob Zombie's wife, right? Okay, so you can see she's got a really awesome picture here. I do think it's actually showing up okay. And I'm a fan of hers as well. I've seen A House of a Thousand Corpses. I've seen The Devil's Rejects. It's hard to say I liked both of those films because they are pretty extreme, but they were good for what they were, as far as being, horror films and being, kind of gross out films. For what it was, I liked them, and I liked Sherry Zombie in it as well. She's the character she played fit what I imagine maybe her personality is. I actually saw Rob Zombie and Sherry Zombie at San Diego Comic-Con right after House of a Thousand Corpses came out, I believe. So it had just come out, and they did a panel at San Diego Comic-Con that year. And I saw them in person, and I enjoyed the panel, and I dug it. So I'm not a Rob Zombie hater, and I'm not a Sherry Zombie hater, and I want to make that clear, okay? What I am is a Munsters fan, okay? I am definitely a Munsters fan. I grew up watching the Munsters as a kid. It was, syndicated, and I used to watch it like after school practically every day. More recently, I've been watching it on Cozy TV. I'm a cord cutter. I have an antenna, and I watch a lot of Cozy TV, and I watch the Munsters on Cozy TV. And I'm a big fan of the show. I have been pretty much all of my life. And I'm going to go even farther than that. Not only am I a fan of the Munsters, I was a fan of the Munsters Today. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I actually was a fan of that show. For those of you that don't remember, here's a picture from that show. It's kind of funny because the Munsters Today was actually on longer than the original Munsters, even though this show is nowhere near as well regarded. But I remember liking this show. And the funny thing is, I'm about the same age as the real life actor who plays Eddie in the Munsters Today. I'm about the same age as him. And I remember having a big crush on the girl that played Marilyn. I believe her name is Hilary Van Dyke, no relation to Dick Van Dyke or his brother, but just a coincidence. And I remember having a big crush on her, and that was one of the reasons I used to watch the show. And again, I was about the same age as Eddie in this version of the show. And interestingly enough, the Munsters Today actually went for 3 seasons and actually had more episodes than the original Munsters, because the original Munsters only had 2 seasons, something like 70 episodes. The Munsters Today, I think, was pretty close to 100 episodes. It was like 90 something, I think. But anyway, it actually exceeded its predecessor. And of course, that was at the time when Star Trek: The Next Generation was popular. I remember there was like a Bonanza, The Next Generation. Everybody was kind of fooling around with that idea. And the Munsters Today actually was much more successful than I think people realize. What the funny thing is about it is I don't think you can find it anywhere today. And it's kind of a lost show in a way. It's kind of forgotten. And incidentally, Lily was played by the same woman who played Catwoman in the original Batman feature film, the original Batman movie. And I'm talking about, my goodness, Lee Merriweather, right? She actually played Catwoman in the movie. She was she played Lily in the Munsters Today. So yeah, Lee Merriweather, who was also someone that I had a little bit of a crush on growing up. She actually, I totally forgot that, by the way, until I was kind of doing research for this broadcast, and it was like, oh, she was actually on this show. So I don't know if I would like it today. I don't know if I would like the Munsters today. As a grown-up, but I remember enjoying it as a kid. So I'm not opposed to the idea of some sort of a reboot or reimagining or whatever it is that Hollywood's going to call it these days. So I just want to make that clear that I did enjoy the Munsters Today. So I'm not totally opposed to the idea. I know that there was also another version that was like, I think just basically a pilot that I think NBC did back in the 90s. I never saw that one. Also, I want to note that I've never actually seen the Munsters movies with the original cast. There's the Munsters Revenge, and there's Munsters Go Home. Munsters Go Home, I think, actually had a real theatrical release. Munsters Revenge was a TV movie that came out in like 1981. I was too young, so I don't even remember that coming out. I've never seen it. Cozy TV has shown Munsters Go Home, but when the last time they showed it, I wasn't able to watch it all the way through. I only saw parts of it. So I know that there's that history where the Munsters has been a movie. It's been a TV movie with the original cast, and there's been another reboot. And quite frankly, the other reboot was in some ways more successful than the original show. It lasted longer. It has more episodes, but it was also in syndication. It wasn't on a network, which the original Munsters was. So I'm a Munsters fan, and I, again, am a Rob Zombie fan. I own some of his work, and this is full of his videos, by the way. So that's also something interesting because as far as Rob Zombie, the director, I've got a bunch of his music videos. One of the big ones is Dragula. I love that song, Dragula. I wish I could play it for this show, but I would get a copyright strike, or even worse, probably I would get a community guideline strike. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm a fan, and Dragula obviously features the Munsters car in it very prominently. And I've been told that Rob Zombie is a big Munsters fan. And I'm going to say right off the bat, you wouldn't know it by watching the movie. You would not know it by watching the movie. There's a lot wrong with the Munsters. I'll call the Munsters 2022. I was very disappointed as what I consider, a pretty solid Munsters fan. I still watch the original show, as I mentioned, when it comes on. I'll sit there and watch it, even though I've seen the episodes 100 times, because they just endure. They're still good. And a big reason that those episodes are still good is because of who's in it, because of the actors. And one of the things I see is that these kind of new wave of actors, it just doesn't compare to the folks that were brought up in the studio system. Fred Gwynne is an amazing actor. If you've seen him in The Boy That Could Fly, he's amazing in that. He plays a very interesting role as sort of the drunken uncle of the main character. Yvonne Decarlo, what can you say about her? I mean, she was in the 10 Commandments. She was a huge actress, and she wound up in TV, but she was a huge actress, incredibly sexy, good-looking woman, very sort of like elegant and refined looking, in my opinion, which I'm just going to say, I don't think Sherry is that. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think she's that. So there was some real miscasting. I don't even know who the actor is who played Herman Munster. I've never heard of him before. My understanding is he's been in a lot of Rob Zombie movies. But like I said, I've seen House of a Thousand Corpses, and I've seen Devil's Rejects, and that's about it as far as Rob Zombie's films. But again, I am a supporter in terms of, I own a bunch of his videos, his music videos, and I think he does a good job on them. Again, Dragula in particular. So I kind of maybe had a little bit of high expectations that this would be a little bit better than it was, but the acting, the casting of Sherry Moon, I don't understand what Rob Zombie was thinking other than just pure nepotism. She is completely miscast. She does this weird thing where she tries to talk like Lily. Like she tries to talk like Yvonne Decarlo talked as Lily. And it just comes across as almost like she's making fun of Yvonne Decarlo, which doesn't make any sense to me because Yvonne Decarlo could wipe the floor with her in terms of acting. There's no comparison. There's just no comparison. Also, just Sherry Moon, even though she's over 50, does not have that sophisticated look to her. She just doesn't. She still looks, to me, very young, which is great for her, but it's not great casting for Lily Munster. Lily Munster is supposed to be like 150 years old in this movie. I believe they said. So it's like, it doesn't make sense to me. And the way she talks, it's almost like she's mocking Yvonne Decarlo. And I didn't appreciate that at all. She wasn't pulling it off. Her voice pitch is too high. That was also the problem with the guy who played Herman Munster. His voice is just way too high. He doesn't sound like Fred Gwynne. And the guy who played Grandpa, I thought he was okay. Of the three, he had the best look of the three, I thought. But he didn't have the accent right. I mean, remember, part of the joke, part of the funniness of the depiction of Grandpa in the Munsters is that he kind of has this Northeast accent, right? And it's pretty thick. The actor didn't disguise his basically New York accent at all. Al Lewis didn't disguise his accent at all. He didn't try to talk like Bela Lugosi or anything like that. And I'm not going to be too hard on him because I felt like he was probably the best of the three, but still he was sorely lacking. So the acting I thought was very subpar. Again, there's no comparison to Fred and Yvonne. They were much better than Sherry and whoever played Herman. I don't even know who he is. I was not impressed. One thing that was really weird to me was this is supposed to be a prequel. This movie is supposed to be a prequel. It's supposed to be how Lily and Herman met. And so it takes place in the 1950s. But they did all these weird things where all of a sudden some modern gadget would come up. And the one thing that really upset me was they threw in modern vernacular. So a lot of times when they were talking, they would say modern expressions, and it totally took me out of it. And I was like, wait a second, is this in the 50s or isn't it? Is it supposed to be modern times? It's very confusing. And clearly later on in the movie, you see, no, it's supposed to be in the 50s. But the way they were talking and just the way they acted, it didn't feel like the 50s at all, like not even close. And that lack of attention to detail, that's all about the writing and that's all about the directing, which I'm going to say they did a terrible job in both regards. Now, in terms of the directing, I will say this. Visually, I thought the film was pretty good. I did enjoy it visually. I was actually thinking I was watching it. Hey, Halloween is right around the corner. This would be something nice to put on during a Halloween party and to put it on mute and then put on some nice music. How about that? That's the best value, I think, of this movie, is to just put it on as background, on your screen at a Halloween party, but put on some music so people can dance. I do want to say the score was terrible. I don't know why they didn't just use the music from the original show, including the little funny music that they used to have, the kind of the bumper music, if you will, the transition music that they had in the show. It could have been a rights issue. I don't know, but they already had rights to the characters. So why can't they get rights to the music? Maybe they didn't want to pay for them. I don't know, but the music was terrible. I didn't like the music at all. It did not fit the Munsters, but the visuals were good. I will say that the visuals were good. Again, put it on in the background of a Halloween party and put on some good music, because the music in this show was not good. It was just not that good at all. So pretty much on all cylinders, this wasn't a very good movie. The acting was subpar. It did not compare to the original actors at all. The writing was really bad. There was way too much modern vernacular for people that are supposed to be in the 50s. The music was I don't know why they're trying to reinvent the wheel. They could have just used music from the show. It would have fit a lot better, but they didn't do that. So I wasn't impressed with the music. The only thing I'll say about the direction is, first of all, obviously if the acting's bad, that's on the director as well. But I will say the visuals were good. So whoever was a director of photography, they did a good job for, I think, what they were trying to do, because it definitely looks like a special made for TV movie. I'm sure that's what they went for. It does not look cinematic. It doesn't look cinematic at all. And I don't think that was the intention. It's very bright. And that's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to see the Munsters so bright. You can see this picture in the background of the Munsters 2022 of the cast. And the color is a little bit off-putting to me because I'm so used to them being in black and white. Now, to be fair, I have a picture here where I can compare the two different casts. And I will remind you again that there are actually 3 different casts, but I didn't put that one in this picture. So you got the classic cast, and the picture in the upper sort of left-hand corner, that is basically, I believe, from Munsters Go Home, which was an actual theatrical release. And you can see it's in color. And this is the original cast except for Marilyn. They recast Marilyn, but it's important to remember they already recast Marilyn in the show. There were 2 actresses that played Marilyn even in the show. So they constantly recasted Marilyn all the time. But you can see in this that the makeup is very similar in terms of Lily, Herman, and Grandpa. They all basically have the same, and Eddie. They basically have the same. Now, as you can see, it's hard to see in the lower right picture, which is the modern cast, because in that picture they kind of look the same as well. But in the movie, which is much more bright, you can tell they're not the same. They actually, like, Lily is more of like kind of a pale white. There are times that because Sherry Zombie is actually so fair skinned herself. I know that, from seeing, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Reject, that I almost felt like she didn't have makeup on, just the way things were lit. It was very confusing. And Grandpa and Herman, they had different like shades of green. And I don't know why they did that. Because you can see the original cast did 2 films where they were in color, and you can see they're all the same. So I don't know why they did that. That's a choice that I totally don't understand. I don't think it was necessary at all. And I don't know why they did that. All right. So overall, without getting into spoilers again, I just felt that the film was incredibly subpar. It was not very faithful to the source material, which is something that really gets to me, especially because I know Rob Zombie has to be a fan of the Munsters. Otherwise, why did he do Dragula? I don't get it. I don't know why he wasn't more respectful of the source material, why he didn't use the original music, why he didn't cast somebody besides his wife as Lily, someone that could actually pull that off. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, he might love his wife, and I'm not saying she's a bad actress. I mean, I think she's good for the range that she has, but you cannot compare her to Yvonne Decarlo. I mean, not even close. So, and whoever that guy that played Herman, you can't compare him to Fred Gwynne either. The closest, again, I would say is the grandpa, but again, his accent wasn't right. I didn't like that. It's just off-putting. But the use of modern vernacular was something I really hated. So I'm really going after the writing in that regard. And the only good thing I'll say again is the visuals. I think it looks like a very bright made for television movie. I think that's what they were going for. And the visuals might be good for background at your Halloween party, as long as you are not putting the audio on. I'm also going to say the film was kind of boring. The first act took way too long. I've been having that criticism of films quite a bit lately. The first act was way too long for a comedy. This film should have been probably half to a third the length of what it is. It's almost 2 hours, which for a comedy, I don't know why guys are doing that. I reviewed another film not too long ago, and the same thing. It was like, why is this comedic family film so long? This film is rated PG. It's very family friendly. I will say that it's very family friendly, but I think most kids are going to get extremely bored at the beginning of the movie. It just takes too long to get things going. And the second act to me was just like, There were a couple moments in the second act that I enjoyed, but it really didn't pick up until about the last half hour. And I couldn't help but notice the irony that it started to pick up in the last half hour. I actually started enjoying myself. That was the first time I actually laughed out loud, because I didn't laugh at all throughout the first 2 acts. But in the last half hour in the last act, I actually did laugh a couple times, and I couldn't help but notice, oh, this is basically the length of a standard Munsters episode. So I feel like all the good material could have been condensed into one standard episode, which is what, 24 minutes, I think, maybe 25. And that was about it. And it was pretty much all at the end. I mean, there were a couple other moments, in the film where, in the first 2 acts that I thought were okay. But for the most part, I was incredibly disappointed with this film. Now, I do want to get into a couple spoilers. I do want to talk about a couple things that are in spoiler territory. So I'm going to go ahead and put on the spoiler ticker. So there are a couple things that I saw that I really want to kind of go after specifically. So these are spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, if you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead. You can put this thing on mute. That's why I have the spoiler ticker on. So you can put it on mute, and then you can come back later, and you can, get back into the show once you see the spoiler ticker off. So one of the issues that I had right from the get-go was it takes about 25 minutes, something like that, before we even see Herman. I don't know what was going on with that. The other thing is the person, they changed it. Herman is no longer Frankenstein's monster. which I was just like, why did they do that? What is the point of Herman not being Frankenstein's monster? It's now Dr. Wolfgang. And I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Also, it didn't seem to me that Grandpa is Count Dracula. I mean, these are supposed to be the universal monsters. So it takes like 20, 25 minutes before we see Herman. Definitely like 25 minutes, almost half an hour before Herman talks. That's just unacceptable to me, especially when you do not have Eddie. Eddie never shows up. We don't even get Lily pregnant. I was just like, what? And there's no Marilyn. I'm going to be honest. I liked Marilyn. Like I was mentioning, like I had a big crush on Marilyn in the Munsters Today. And I did have a big crush on the two Marilyns in the original series growing up. There's no Marilyn. There's no talk of Marilyn. And the other thing is, I always remember, and I could be wrong, but the way I remember it is Marilyn is the daughter of Lily's sister. Well, instead of showing Lily's sister, they show her brother, which I don't remember her having a brother. I could be wrong about that. But it's like they have her brother. And, you know, as far as I know, I remember that Marilyn is supposed to be Lily's sister's daughter. They don't show Lily's sister. So there's no inkling of Marilyn. There's no inkling of Eddie. And that to me is totally unacceptable. I just don't understand why they went that route. I understand this is supposed to be a prequel. I understand that this is supposed to show how they got together. But they could have done that so much quicker, so much quicker. It takes all the way until about halfway through the movie. We're basically at sort of the beginning, I guess, of the second act. This is when Lily and Herman actually get married. And it's only at that point that we actually get our first scare, where the first time that the Munsters actually scare people. They're in Paris and they scare these people at a cafe. And I couldn't help but think, does Rob Zombie even get it? Do the people that wrote this or produced this get what was funny about the Munsters? The most central thing about the Munsters is that, yes, they are the universal monsters. They are Frankenstein's monster. They are Count Dracula. You know, Lily's a new character, but she's supposed to be a vampire. Eddie's a new character, but he's a werewolf. They do show other characters like the creature from the Black Lagoon, which they do show in the movie, which I did appreciate that actually, but it went by too fast. But the thing is like, you know, the whole idea of the Munsters is that they're actually really kind of normal people. Even though they're monsters, they're normal people, and they're just trying to fit in with other normal people, average normal people. There's always the joke about the looks, right? That's a constant running joke in the Munsters that, you know, they think that they're really good looking and everybody else is really bad looking. Marilyn, even though she's kind of a gorgeous girl, you know, they think is the ugly duckling of the family. But as far as the way they act pretty normal, especially, you know, Herman has a job, you know, it's a kind of a weird job. Yeah, he's a grave digger, but still there are grave diggers. He has a job, you know, he goes to work. He has friends at work. He interacts with people. All of them have sort of normal lives. Eddie goes to a normal school. Marilyn goes to college, you know, all that kind of stuff. They are trying to be normal. And in their mind, they are normal. Well, what they do in this movie for the first hour of it, before you actually get them in Paris and you actually get the first scare of regular people, they're in Transylvania and they're with other monsters. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The whole central premise of the Munsters is that they are monsters living in suburbia. They are living amongst regular people in the United States. And while it could be fun to explore their origins a little bit and talk about Transylvania, I think they totally missed the mark. You know, one thing I remember specifically is there's an episode in the original show where Grandpa is calling Transylvania. And he's talking to an operator. The operator is not a monster. She's not a witch. She's not a vampire. She's not a werewolf. She is a normal woman. And there are references that Herman makes about, you know, people coming out with pitchforks. So Transylvania is supposed to be like the real Transylvania. It's supposed to be like a normal place with normal people. And even there, they are extraordinary. Granted, Transylvania is where the monsters come from, right? That's a traditional thing. Transylvania is where all the monsters come from, but it's not like everybody that lives in Transylvania is a monster and some kind of weird freak. But that's what they did in this movie. And I'm just like, how could you not understand that? How does Rob Zombie not understand that? How does the producers not understand that? How do the writers, how does Netflix not understand that? It's like the most important element of the Munsters is completely forgotten in this movie. It's completely forgotten. They are supposed to be monsters in suburbia. They are supposed to have weird reactions from people. They're not supposed to be amongst a bunch of other monsters, and Transylvania is not supposed to be just full of other monsters. There's supposed to be normal people there. You know, like I said, it's in the original show. I remember Grandpa calling Transylvania. The operator is just a normal girl. She's not a monster. So to me, they kind of ruined and totally, they totally messed up on the central premise of what makes the Munsters appealing and what their main joke is. They missed the main joke. This is supposed to be a comedy, and it was really unfunny until the last act. The last act I did enjoy. The last act, incidentally, is when they actually come to America. And when they come to America, now we get those weird reactions. We get those attitudes, those Munster attitudes. And the ending of it is actually a little bit fun. But otherwise, I will say I did not like this film. I cannot recommend it to people, especially if you're a Munsters fan. But what I will say again is, if you want to put some visuals on during like a Halloween party and you want to keep the sound off and then maybe put on some music or something like that, this movie might fit the bill if you're not looking for something scary, if you're looking for something family friendly. But again, with the family friendly thing, I do think a lot of kids will not like this movie just because it takes way too long for anything to really happen. It takes way too long for anything to happen. So again, I sadly cannot really recommend this film. I'm a Munsters fan, but the casting was way off, and it's just not a recommend for me, and I'm sorry to say that. All right, so I've got the spoilers off. Again, I am Base God 14, and this is the Base God Live, also known as the Base God Live. So I'm going to go ahead and get into Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. So let's get into it. Once again, I do want to mention that I did do an unboxing. I do have a personal copy of Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter, and I actually did an unboxing. I put the link in the chat. I will probably go ahead and put the link in the description for the video on the YouTube channel, so that if you want to check that out, please do. So I'm not going to get too much into like the quality of the book or the add-ons, the rewards and things like that I got through the Indiegogo campaign. I'm going to talk about the book specifically. Now, Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter, for those that do not know, this is produced by Stuntman Comics. It is written by Mandy Summers, and the artist is Peter Gilmore. And let me see if I got the cover for you here, which I know I do. Just got to find it. This is the standard cover for the book. As you can see, Mandy Summers has her last name there. Peter Gilmore has his last name on there. So it's a two-person team. The book is in black and white. By the way, I had the standard edition. There are alternative covers. For instance, this one is one that I like quite a bit. Let me get my banner out of the way so you can actually see it. So this is Jack the Vampire Hunter. This is the alternate cover. Incidentally, I actually got a print of this. It was one of the rewards. I got the alternate covers. So that was really, really cool, and I appreciate that. But this is the cover I had. So the book that I had is 100% black and white. And I know there are some people that aren't huge fans of black and white comic books, but I think that it really worked in this particular book because it is such a dark book, right? This is definitely a Halloween kind of book. This is kind of book that you want to read in October. This is the kind of book that you want to read if you're trying to get psyched for Halloween. They actually do have the art style is really complimentary for the story. This is obviously supposed to be based on the real Jack the Ripper story. For people that don't know, Jack the Ripper was a historical serial killer. No one ever figured out his identity. There's all sorts of theories about who he was. And it's not really giving anything away to say that in this version of the Jack the Ripper story, Jack the Ripper is a vampire hunter. So the prostitutes that he's killing they're not just normal innocent people or whatever. They are actually vampires. And I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm not going to get like too spoiler heavy in my review of this book, because I know that there's people that, they want to get the book, and obviously I don't want to, give away too much. I don't want the creators to feel like I'm giving the book away or anything like that. But I do have this image. It's from the Indiegogo campaign. You can see that it's censored a little bit, but it definitely gives you a good idea of what the style of the book is. So you can kind of see in this scene, and this is the way that the book actually opens up. This is like the first couple of pages. You can see basically this prostitute, and you can't see any of the dialogue. The dialogue is very complimentary. I think Mandy Summers did a really good job in terms of the dialogue. But you can see like this prostitute, basically, she's being treated like garbage. Like you can see somebody's basically like throwing out their human waste and dumping it on her, and people are laughing at her. And, her life is obviously really bad. She's a prostitute, and, life is not good. And then she's approached by this mysterious figure. And you might think, just based on the way he looks, that this is Jack the Ripper. But it turns out, no, this is a vampire. And this vampire goes ahead and bites this prostitute, and now she's a vampire. And so, again, without revealing too much, because I don't want to ruin the story in any way, I will get a little bit spoiler light at the end, but this is not really a spoiler. Jack is actually chasing this guy. And because this particular vampire is feeding on prostitutes, that's who Jack the Ripper is killing, because he's after the vampires. So I think they did a really good job. Again, the artwork is really, really good. I really appreciate what Peter Gilmore did. I did mention that in my unboxing video. And again, please check that out as well, so you can see some of the visuals, some of the cool perks that I got as far as ordering this. But the artwork is done very, very well. And the writing complements the artwork very well. And I think Mandy did a really good job. I enjoyed the book. It was a pretty brisk read. I didn't feel bored reading it. It is a graphic novel, so it's not like a standard, 22-page comic book. I think it's around 60 pages, something like that. But I read it, I think, within 15, 20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, because I was looking at some of the visuals, and I really did enjoy it. And I thought they did a good job. It looks like my partner in crime, Bad Bob, is in the house. Robert, thank you for commenting. I really appreciate that. It's also nice to know that the Facebook is actually working. I appreciate the fact that that you're commenting here, because it's nice to know that the Facebook is working, because we've had issues with the Facebook. Incidentally, Robert and I do a show together called The Bad Bob Show. So please check that out. Please support us. We've got all new, except for the Facebook, we've got all new channels for that. There's a specific Bad Bob Show, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And definitely want to get people supporting that. And it's a no holds barred discussion. We're trying to be funny. We'll hit politics, sports, entertainment, whatever. So, and you met what guy, Rob? What guy did you meet? Who are you talking about here? You met Jack the Ripper? I don't think so, my friend. I think Jack the Ripper was gone long before you came to this earth. But again, Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter, I will give it a recommend. I do enjoy it. I thought the artwork was really good. Oh, In Prison. Oh, there you go. In Prison. So, hey, I wonder if people are going to be wondering, what contact was that? Hey, how do you know Robert exactly? How do you know him? So anyway, but I do want to get a light spoiler. So this is a light spoiler. Again, you can just mute it if you don't want to hear any spoilers, and then I'll take the ticker off, and then you can listen again once the ticker is off. The ending is a cliffhanger. And so this very much is just sort of introducing the characters. I was a little bit disappointed in that. I thought this was going to be basically a self-contained story. And especially since it was a graphic novel, I figured there'd be kind of a beginning, a middle, and end. I wasn't expecting like the first act of a story because essentially this is an origin story of Jack. I mean, Jack is already kind of doing his thing, so we get a little bit of explanation as to why he's doing what he's doing, like why he's going after this vampire. And I won't spoil that. We do get an indication of why he's doing this, but it very much feels like the first act of a story. It doesn't feel like itself a totally contained story. And I was a little disappointed in that because this is a graphic novel, and I think there's plenty of time to make a self-contained story. This is more of an introduction. There is another main character besides Jack and the vampire, but since I don't think it's in any of the preview material, I won't reveal who that is. But there is another major character. But again, the visuals are very good. It's a solid read. It goes by fast. Great artwork, and I would give it a recommend and a thumbs up for sure. All right. Yeah, it's actually, Robert, it's interesting. You say the story sounds cool. I almost want to, I'm almost thinking in my head like this could make a pretty good movie. And, Robert and I, we're in the film business, and already I'm thinking that it's like, we've got so many other projects that we're dealing with right now, but it's almost like I almost want to approach Mandy Summers and ask her if she has some interest in making this into a movie, because I feel like it could be a really good movie. So, Robert, you say the story sounds cool. If you want to borrow my copy, let me know, Rob, and you can definitely check it out. And you can see if you're seeing what I'm seeing. Because, I mean, obviously, one of the cool things about a comic book is basically you've already got the storyboard there. Because comics are very much in the same format as a storyboard for a movie. So, yeah, if you want to check it out, Robert, I'd be more than happy to let you see my copy. And again, I definitely give Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter a recommend, and I think you should check it out. And I also support indie comics, support indie content. I think that's really important. I gave a very negative review to the Munsters, and that's, Netflix, that's corporate stuff. It's Rob Zombie, and I didn't like it. But you know what? Jack the Ripper, this is Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. This is independent content. This is self-published content. Stuntman Comics is Mandy Summers' publishing house, basically. She did it on her own. This is not DC. This is not Marvel. This is not IDW. List goes on and on. And, she did this from Indiegogo, and, all compliments to her. I know it was a very successful campaign. Obviously, I contributed to it, and I think this is a good product, and I do recommend it. Rob, I believe it's like 60 pages. That's what I want to say. It's not like a normal comic book is something like 22, 24 pages. And this particular comic book, I think, was more around, I want to say 60 pages. And I'm going to look it up just real quick. I might as well. I'm still under the hour mark. So other people might be interested in the actual length. So I'm going to try to pull up the Indiegogo campaign. I should have had this probably ready before. Honestly, I thought I did, but I probably, what I did was I closed the window and didn't have it up. And of course, my computer is just being retarded right now, which my computer often does, unfortunately. All right, Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. Let me go ahead, and I'm going to all right, this is weird. I'm having difficulty sharing my screen for some reason. So what does it say? Graphic novel. I'm not actually seeing the page count, which is kind of weird. You would think they would definitely include that in the campaign information. Maybe I just scrolled right by it and didn't even notice. I've got to share this. Here we go. So here's the campaign information. You can also see additional visuals here. And it was fully funded. They got $65,510. That's pretty awesome. And it doesn't tell you what the goal was, but I know the goal was far less than that. Far, far less than that. See if it's in the FAQs. Nope. My goodness. Why can't I get the page count? I want to say it's probably 60 pages because that seems to be around what most graphic novels are. You can see some of the other visuals. Again, this is from the Indiegogo campaign, so this isn't revealing anything that they didn't have in there. And I did an unboxing, and you can see the stretch goals here. Like I have the cards. Like I got all the different cards. You can see as the stretch goals got up, they added more and more cards. And then I got the print pack. That was another thing that was in the rewards. So the print pack, I believe, is all the like alternate covers, which are pretty good. Again, I showed that when I did my unboxing. But yeah, I'm going to say it's around 60 pages. That's pretty standard, I think, for most graphic novels. And again, probably my only disappointment is that oh, it's blocked. You're right. Oh, thank you, Rob. Dang it. Yep. That's the problem when you're doing a show by yourself. That is the problem. It's blocked. Thank you for telling me. Yep. All right. I got you, Rob. Thank you for letting me know. All right. So here's the Indiegogo campaign. So you can kind of see some of the other artwork from the book. So you can kind of see, again, I think Peter Gilmore did a fantastic job. You can see this image of London. It looks really, really good, and this carriage and all that kind of stuff. Again, this is like the beginning of the book right over here, where you have this image of this prostitute being treated like garbage, and then she's attacked by this vampire. And you have other images here of like, her at the wake, basically at the funeral, basically the transformation. So these are like all like the very first images of the book. This is actually the intro. In fact, they actually have, I think, 4 or 5 chapters, and this is basically the intro where you see this poor prostitute that's been turned into a vampire. And again, the visuals, I think, are just done very, very, very well. And I can't help but think that this would make a pretty awesome film. I really think that it would. The writer, Rob, is Mandy Summers. And if you go to Indiegogo, you can obviously still find the campaign, even though it's over. Mandy also is active on, I think, pretty much every single social media format. Like I know she's very active on Twitter. I would imagine she has a Facebook. I'm sure she has an Instagram, but she's very active on Twitter. I know that. So, but you can find her YouTube channel by just, typing in Mandy Summers. As far as I know, it's all her in terms of she has full creative control of the project. As my understanding, I think Peter Gilmore was hired to do the art. I'm not 100% on that, but I believe that is the case. So Mandy, basically, this is her creation. This is her idea. Yeah, no problem, Rob. And again, thanks for commenting on the show. I appreciate it. It's nice to have somebody to talk to for one thing, but also, again, we've been having problems with the Facebook. And I just want to make sure that we're kind of getting over those problems, that this is going to start to work again. While you're here, Rob, I'm going to go ahead and let you know that I am going to share the Bad Bob, our last show that we did, where we were talking about Elon Musk. We were talking about, obviously his comments on the war in Ukraine. We were talking about Biden and his use of the F word, which it's not what you think, folks. And what was the other thing that we talked about on that show? Elon, Biden. Oh, and we talked about Daddy Daughter Trip. That's right. That was the last film that I reviewed on this show, and I talked about my experience of going to the premiere, because I actually went to the daddy-daughter trip premiere. And that's also a video that's available on my channel. I do have a full review of daddy-daughter trip on my channel. So if you're interested in independent film, and also film made in Arizona, check that out. Yeah, I did hear about that, Rob. You said Elon owns Twitter now. Now, officially, he actually does not. They still have, I think, until Wednesday to hammer this out. The judge, I just read an article about this. The judge went ahead and said that they would delay the trial, because the trial was supposed to start either this week or next week. So they do have some things they still have to iron out. And I'm just going to be honest. I don't trust Elon at this point. So we'll see what happens. I think he's going to do it. But at the same time, we know Elon is very unpredictable. And you just never know. You never know what he could do. It seems like he's committed now, but it seemed like he was committed before. In fact, that's why this lawsuit happened. So we will see. But my understanding is Wednesday, they're supposed to meet and hammer this out. And then Elon will own Twitter. Fingers crossed, because full disclosure, I own Twitter stock, and I will make money if this deal goes through the way that Elon said it would. I'm still also worried that he's going to try to reduce the price, that he's going to try to buy the stock at a further premium, because obviously the amount that Elon is saying that he'll pay is more than what the stock is trading for right now. And it's more than what the stock has been trading for ever since he made the announcement. Twitter took quite a tumble. So I'm just hoping this happens so I can make a little bit of money. So that's my main thing. I just want to make a little bit of money. At this point, I don't know what's going on with that guy sometimes. But I will say this: earlier, before I went on the show, I was watching the latest rocket, Dragon, going up and docking with the space station. I thought it was really interesting because. And this is something maybe we can talk about on our show, Rob, the first Russian to go on SpaceX, which is really interesting considering everything that's going on. There was a Russian cosmonaut on the SpaceX rocket. So I was just watching that the whole little not ceremony, but they do almost like a little announcement when new astronauts go to the International Space Station. And this was a SpaceX flight, and they had a female Russian cosmonaut on it. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Elon is doing very interesting things, but sometimes his antics get to me a little bit. So we are at about almost at the hour mark, but almost, it says 53 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and start shutting this down. I do appreciate you coming out, Rob. Thank you very much. I know the algorithm is killing me right now. It is absolutely killing me right now because I wasn't doing content for so long, and definitely I feel like YouTube is punishing me, and so are the other formats. Twitter, I mean, I can hardly get any views basically on Twitter right now. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Rob, appreciate that. See you soon, and yes, and of course we have another show to do. Definitely let me know what's going on with your schedule so I know the next time that we're going to be doing the Bad Bob Show. We have been doing it on Mondays, but there are some schedule issues going on right now. So we're not 100% sure. We're looking at possibly Tuesday as a possible alternative if Mondays are not going to work anymore. But we're just hammering that out. So, yeah, appreciate that, Rob. Definitely just let me know. And again, we've been doing our broadcasts around 5 o'clock for the Bad Bob Show. So definitely keep your eyes out for the Bad Bob Show. And it's going to probably be either Monday or Tuesday at 5 o'clock. That's 5 o'clock Pacific time, or specifically Arizona time, because Arizona doesn't change. It's the rest of you all that do. But yeah, just keep a lookout for that. We want to keep doing content. And I think we also want to make sure that we start to diversify our content a little bit. Like, our last show, like I said, I talked about my experience of going to a world premiere of Daddy-Daughter Trip. And then we also talked about, some politics. And we talked about Elon. We talked about Biden, talked about Ukraine. But we want to also talk about sports, and we want to do more entertainment stuff. We want to talk about what's going on with Bad Bob Productions. So keep an eye out for that. And speaking of which, Staycation is very much on our minds. We're hoping that film is going to be coming out at the end of the year, and we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed on that one. Fingers definitely crossed on that one. So again, I appreciate anybody that stopped by. Please make sure that you comment, that you like, you share, so I can grow my channel. Even if you weren't able to comment during the live show, you can always comment after the fact. You can always comment on Twitter. You can always comment on YouTube. I think it's different if you try to do it on Twitch, but definitely comment even if you didn't make it to the live show. Make sure you comment if you watch one of the, watch the repeat, watch a reviewing or whatever. And I will do my best to answer your questions. And you can let me know what you thought. Did you like the Munsters 2022, as I'm calling it? Have you read Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter? Have you heard about it, Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter? Are you now interested about it because you heard my review of it? Let me know in the comments, and I really appreciate anybody checking out my channel and giving me your support. So I think that is going to be about it. And I thank anybody that checked out the show. And again, I thank anybody that checks out the replays. And as far as this channel goes, I'm looking to probably do my shows on Wednesday or Thursday evenings. I'm just looking at probably once a week right now. But I'm trying to rebuild my audience because I used to be the co-host of the Retro Rogues Live, but that show is currently on indefinite hiatus. That's the official status of the Retro Rogues Live. So I'm trying to do my own content. And again, I am the on-air producer for the Bad Bob Show, which should be basically every Monday or Tuesday at 5 p.m. So please check that out and support our channels.